If I Should Die by Donevy Westphal. Available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other retailers.
Got time to work on Sally Lou, Julius did. I'll leave my tea here and be back. I guess, Michael frowned and trudged after Julius through the breezeway. When they reached the pickup, Michael looked to the hood. Look here, Julius demonstrated. If you just give it a few squirts of this, he sprayed some carb cleaner in the carburetor, then turn the screw on this side here to the left, that should do the trick. Sally Lou should run much smoother now. He straightened up and wiped his hands on a clean grease rag. Your mom and I talked about parking my car in the garage, but I probably won't be back until about 10:30 tonight. Yeah, we'll take care of it. Michael frowned and looked away. Then sudden anger flamed in Michael's eyes, and he looked straight at Julius. Who are you, and what are you doing here? What do you mean, Michael? It's me, Julius. Julius C. Armstrong, a freelance writer working on a book about small towns. In a pig's eye. Those burglaries? He only harassed us from afar before, until you got here. Cool down, friend, Julius said. Chapter 12. The June evening had a pleasant feel. Julius observed the Friday evening traffic. People were looking for a good time, and Herman had much to offer. The marquee in front of Frankie and Johnny's Super Club screamed, Live shows, 8:30 and 10. Julius idled through the parking lot, found a spot, not too close, not too far, and parked. It took his eyes a short time to adjust to the dim light inside the establishment. He stopped at the Please be waited to be seated sign. How many in your party? The hostess asked. Just a single, he answered. A quiet table would be desirable. Here you are, sir. She led him to a semi-private table overlooking the stage. There will be someone with you in a few minutes. She handed him a menu. What would you recommend? Julius asked the server as he looked over the menu. The ribeye is excellent. The shrimp is excellent. We don't have anything that's not noteworthy, sir. So you'd recommend the ribeye? I'll take that then. On the rare side, baked potato with sour cream and butter, fried okra, and yes, tossed salad with the house dressing, please. What would I care to drink? He repeated her question. I'll just take a glass of soda water. Thank you. He handed her the menu. He leaned back in his cubby hole and stretched his long legs out in front of him. The hostess, waitresses, and bartenders wore the same style outfits, complete with the fringed vest, cowgirl, and cowboy hats and boots. The large bar, the glitz and glimmer, and the glittering people behind their fancy facades were part of the spangle and shine. Julius knew places like this. The lights were purposefully dim, so people could only see what they were supposed to see. It hid the sad emptiness that lay behind the laughter of the crowd. This is my world, he thought sarcastically. This is what I'm used to, and where I've been for far too long. Deceit and charade. He glanced around the nightclub. Funny. Too simple. Religious people, this would appear to be a den of iniquity. He recalled Ruth's comment on the matches. Well, well, he murmured as he observed the same young buck from Mom and Pop's with what appeared to be a businessman as they were seated close to the stage. Thank you. He moved back as the salad disappeared, and the main meal was placed in front of him. Mind if I join you, cowboy? Julius looked up to see a blonde-haired woman smiling down at him. No, ma'am. Have a seat. My name's Angie. You're new here, aren't you? She looked him over with a deliberate gaze. Yes, ma'am, he said. Would you like a drink? That would be most kind. Just call me Angie. Catching the attention of his waitress, he told her, Same as I've got for the lady here. The waitress gave him a puzzled look, but went for Angie's drink. Where are you from? Angie asked. Peoria. Are you from around here? He finished his potato and cut off a bite of his steak. Independence. Just moved here from Independence. I've never been to Independence. He made small talk for a few moments, continuing to work on his meal. Leaned forward and slipped a note under the napkin beside her glass. I have to forewarn you, he started an explanation, but he was interrupted by the blaring music and the spotlight gleaming on the small stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the announcer came over the loudspeaker. For your evening entertainment, right from Las Vegas, Miss Louise Crabtree. A curvaceous platinum blonde in a blue sequined dress pranced into the circle of light. Too late to make himself heard, Angie raised the glass and took a sip. If the music hadn't brought the conversation to a halt, her sputtering and choking would have. Cowboy, she hissed, rising abruptly. That ain't funny. She stalked away, still clutching the napkin to her mouth. I've often found soda water good for the digestion, he said into the air as Angie slipped into the ladies' room. His eyes scanned the customers sitting up front by the entertainment. Very cozy, he thought. As he found there where the two men were seated, a slim brunette hostess sat beside the younger man. She touched his hand and whispered in his ear. He leaned toward her, and with a laugh whispered back. A short time later, Angie reappeared, slipping quietly back in her seat. I'd appreciate it if you'd warn me next time, she said with a smile that did not match her tone. Sorry, I tried, but the music's too loud, he smiled back in a friendly manner. Find out about that name if you can. What about the two down there? I'll get you some info on them. Will you be in again soon? She leaned toward Julius and smiled. Should be, but not too soon. Got your schedule? From a distance, it would look like they were carrying on a friendly conversation. Even as she slipped him a piece of paper, Julius watched the show for a short time, then pushed back from the table. Well, thank you for your time and company. I'll be looking for you next time I visit, he said with a wink. Good luck, cowboy. Was everything all right? The cashier's manicured nails tapped on the keys. Yes, it was excellent. Thank you, ma'am. He paid for the meal, pulled his cowboy hat lower, and walked out into the warm night. Finished here. Time to backtrack to the house. Julius turned on his blinker at the stoplight. Julius parked on the road a short way from the house. He had disabled the dome light and the other bells and whistles for silence. Now he slid out of his vehicle without sound. Earning my wages, he thought as he began to scout around. Sally Lou, as well as Lewis's pickup, sat in the driveway. Still early, he decided, looking at his watch in the scant light. Julius came around to the front of the house and stood concealed in the shadows, close to the window. He had a good view of Mrs. McDonald, Ruth, Michael, and Lewis in the living room. We value your thoughts, Ruth, on the turn of events. It was Lewis's voice. He wrinkled his brow. His voice held a tone of exasperation. What in the world possessed you to take in a stranger, Mom? Mrs. McDonald answered. Matthew 25:35. I was a stranger and you took me in. Mother, he groaned. With Meacham harassing us at every turn? And we don't know this guy. I'm not flippant, my son. He doesn't seem a stranger to me. I can't explain it, but it was the right thing to do. Her manner was subdued but earnest. Michael said, the burglar wasn't after Ruth's thing. He was after Armstrong's film. Ruth's words were cautious. With Mr. Armstrong, I see two people. One person is friendly, easy to get to know, and honestly what he appears to be. The other one is cloaked and keeps to himself. Ruth has hit her thumb with the hammer, Michael said. Mr. Armstrong is friendly and easy to get to know, yet where's he from? Who's he working for? Does he have a family? Mr. Armstrong isn't part of them, but whether he is an answer to our prayers, I don't know. An answer to prayer. He had been called that on several occasions, but what were they praying for? Considering some of the conversations of the past few days, he had a few ideas. Julius put that information in his file of to be considered later, since the conversation in the living room took a new turn. By the way, Ruth looked at Mrs. McDonald, what did you say to him yesterday just before I came in? I don't remember, Mrs. McDonald asked. Why? I had just walked in the door. You were bringing the cakes to the table when he had an intense reaction to something you said, which is why you spilled the tea. I asked him if he was going to bring his wife and daughter for a visit, Mrs. McDonald said. I didn't feel a reaction, and that's why I was so confused. Silence, then, as Lewis, Michael, and Ruth exchanged frightened glances. Ruth touched Mrs. McDonald's hand in a soft voice. She asked, Did he tell you he had a wife and daughter? I don't remember that he did. No, I must have confused him with one of those delivery men. A mistake? Was that all it was? Even as a child, he remembered times when his mother seemed on occasion to have knowledge from somewhere else she could never really explain. That explanation made sense to Julius, and he would be more careful in the future.